Hello, my name is Joshua William, and on behalf of the Department of Psychology, this presentation will focus on the Enneagram's validity and reliability. The table of contents are as followed. Beginning with the summary of the research, we will then transition to the purpose of the study, followed by a brief overview of the Enneagram, which we will finally close out with how the data can change our view of the Enneagram. The Rico-Hudson Enneagram Type Indicator is a tool that is recently being used. As such, there is not a lot of research done on this personality test. Thus, the contents of this presentation are to bring the Enneagram forward into the limelight by running several correlations against different personality measures. The purpose of the study is to find out if the Enneagram is as valid and as reliable when compared with other popular personality tests. It will be tested against the Big Five and the Jung typology tests. Given that it is, the Enneagram can then be used in various places, which will be said later on in this presentation. As for the Enneagram, there are 9 types within it. Each type has its own name and description. Type 1 being the reformer, who are principled and perfectionists. Type 2, the helpers. They're generous and people pleasers. Type 3, the achiever. They're driven and excel at everything given to them. Type 4, the individualist. They're expressive and temperamental. Type 5, the investigator. Perceptive and innovative. Type 6, the loyalist. They're engaging and very responsible. Type 7, the enthusiast. They're spontaneous and versatile. Type 8, the challenger, who are self-confident and willful. And finally, Type 9. They're receptive and complacent. These descriptions are merely highlights, for they do not explain each type fully. The question that arose for this research was if the Enneagram is as valid and as reliable as other personality tests. 2 hypotheses were able to be formed around this question. The first being that the Enneagram will positively correlate with the Big Five test, and the second being that the Enneagram will positively correlate with the Jung typology test. To produce a higher sample data, I had to resend the survey during spring of 2021. Once the data was collected, we had a total of 160 participants that consisted of 21 male and 139 female undergraduate students between the ages of 17 and 47. The majority of participants were seniors, and also the majority of participants were either black or white. And now for the materials. The materials that were used for the study are the Enneagram personality test, the Jung typology test, and the Big Five test. All of these scales were given to the participants randomly, and they were counterbalanced, and they were distributed As for the results, the Cronbach alphas for the Enneagram and the Young Typology test were greater than 0.85. However, the Big Five was less than 0.5, unfortunately. Pearson's bivariate correlations were done to assess the relationship between these scales. The next two slides will contain the tables from these correlations. This table contains a correlation matrix for the Enneagram and the Big Five test. A value with 1 asterisk represents significance on the 0.05 level. A value with 2 asterisks represents significance on the 0.01 level. The measures to focus on are agreeableness, conscientiousness, negative emotionality, open-mindedness, and extroversion. Some of these subscales within the Big Five correlated positively with some types from the Enneagram, while also being statistically significant, indicating strong evidence for our first hypothesis. This table contains the correlation matrix for the Enneagram and the Young Typology test. A value with 1 asterisk represents significance on the 0.05 level. A value with 2 asterisks represents significance on the 0.01 level. The measures to focus on here are as follows. E being extroversion, I being introversion, N being intuitive, S being sensing, T being thinking, F being feeling, J being judging, and P being perceiving. Some of these subscales from the Young Typology test also correlated positively with some types from the Enneagram, while also being statistically significant, indicating strong evidence for our second hypothesis. The implication of this data suggests that the Enneagram is indeed on par with the Big Five and the Young Typology test. Almost all the types that needed to correlate heavily with a certain subscale from either the Big Five and or the Young Typology test, such as Type 2 and agreeableness, or Type 7 and E, did so with great significance. This in turn means that the Enneagram is as valid and reliable as some of these other popular tests. It can be a great alternate within this topic area, whether you're trying to find personalities or for fun. It can also be used in various places, such as a school or maybe even the work environment. A major limitation to this research was that the subscales for the Enneagram and the Young Typology test were not available to me. They were proprietary to their respective holders, which meant that I had to make subscales out of the knowledge I have on these tests. That being said, human error can definitely be made while making these subscales. COVID-19 also made it hard to acquire any adequate sample size, which in turn delayed the results from being made. As for future research, this study could be conducted on a smaller group of people and then be followed up to the same group of people to ensure that it is indeed valid and reliable. As such, COVID-19 could have also heavily influenced the way these participants chose their answers on these scales. Perhaps doing a comparison between the results that were given now to results that could be given at a later date when COVID-19 is no longer a heavy influence in everyone's life. That could very well be an interesting study. Research can also be done between males and females within these scales, whether that's other correlations or t-tests. However, there need to be enough males within a sample pool, unlike the pool that I had. To finish, I hope this presentation will bring the Enneagram into spotlight, and I hope that it can be used widely among our vast society. Hopefully, this test can be used in more places and assert itself within the famous line of personality tests. Thank you for